Hi, my name is Dr. Joseph Newts, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Mdvip program. A lot of people come and they sit in front of me and they ask me, why should I join? What is this program? Just to give you a little background, I've been practicing for close to 20 years. I've seen healthcare change over these past 20 years. It comes down to a point now where I've gotten 8 rooms outside here, and I run from room to room to room, taking care of patients. I had close to 4,000 patients at one point. And I was running from room to room to room, seeing 30, if I'm by myself, 70 people a day, which is ridiculous. I'm ashamed to say that now. But I would run into a room. I'd say, hey, my name's Dr. Newts. I would sit there and take care of them. Everybody became a number, a drug, and a disease. And I sat there, run from room to room to room, treating each disease with a drug, and hardly got to talk to the patients. Insurance companies, they want you to see more and more patients. And it got to a point where all of a sudden I'm just running from room to room, not really wanting to continue on doing that. I actually was branching off and doing administrative work at the hospital, where I served as their vice president of medical affairs. And then it came to a point where they didn't want me to really see patients on a full-time basis. I looked around and I found this Mdvip program. And it kind of matched what I used to do. In the past, about 10 years ago, there was a book written, Caring for the Country. And in this book, the biggest chapter is about me. It's a small-town family doctor caring for patients, knowing everything about the patient, the grandparents, and the kids. And that's those are the days I really loved to practice medicine, when I got to sit down with patients. And that's the whole model behind the Mdvip program. One of my patients once posted on their website, it's like having your old-time doctor with all the new technologies of medicines. And that's exactly what it's about. Over the years, I can see what happens. When we sit there and we look at our screens out here, we know that health is all about exercise and diet. What I noticed, though, is that if you look at the literature out there, it says deaths from medical mistakes hit all-time records, and it's absolutely true. And they talk about, how health information technology is going to fix everything. But it's not going to fix everything. I know that. I know about information technology, and that's not the fix. I mean, examples are this. I have somebody followed by another office, another specialist. And I was looking at his records. I read through all my records line by line. And in that record, it said he had a 69% blockage of his carotid artery. And then I tried to find where he had follow-up, and I couldn't find anything. He comes in and sits in my chair, and I say, hey, whatever happened to that carotid artery that's 69% blocked? He says, I didn't know I had it. I'm like, you do? That's 5 years ago. I have somebody else admitted to the hospital with chest pains. On their records, they have coronary artery disease. Turns out I couldn't find a heart cath report. He didn't have coronary disease, he had carotid disease. Another lady comes in here on her records, says she has breast cancer. And I can't find any mammograms with it. She had laryngeal cancer. Some other guy come from up north, put a stack of records on my chart, says I had really good doctors up north in Virginia. And the first page I looked at said he had postpartum depression. I'm like, when were you pregnant? So information technology is not the fix. What happens is you go out there and you start looking at the medical mistakes. And in the past, back in the 1900s, pneumonia was the leading cause of death, TB, GI things. In 2010, they repeated those studies. We see heart disease as number 1 killer, cancer is number 2. The number 3 leading cause of death are medical errors. If 1,000 people on this plane, if it crashed and they all died, that would be a tragedy. But 1,000 people a day die because of medical errors, that's unforgivable. So what has to happen is exactly what we're doing here. We go back, and I look over everybody's records line by line. Anytime they go off somewhere, I look over those records. If they go to the hospital, I follow them. And my first job through this program is to keep them off that airplane of medical mistakes. I don't want that to happen. Then our next things we do is we try to look at this cancer and this heart disease and try to figure out ways we can prevent and actually try to pick up things as early as we can. So I know that health information technology is important, but I know it's more important for someone to sit here and go through those records. I know it's more important for a doctor to sit in front of a patient and actually talk to that patient and make sure they capture all that information and get it accurate in there. So that's one of the big benefits about this Mdvip program. And when you look at that, it's not a very important person, which all the patients are very important people. But what Mdvip stands for is value in prevention. And then that's the other big leg of this Mdvip program. In the past, we would sit there and we would get these cholesterol tests. And you'd see that we get these 4 different tests. We look at the bad, the good, and the triglycerides. But now through the MDVIP program, we sit there and we break that down into 14 different tests. We look at all these different tests out here, and so instead of just looking at the calculated bad cholesterol, we break it down to all the different components that make that up. And when you're done with that, you see a table something like this. You see the total cholesterol, the good cholesterol is total. You see the stuff that looks pretty, but you're most concerned about the stuff right here that really helps declog the arteries. With the bad cholesterol, we have the inherited stuff, the intermediate. We know about sizes and number of the bad cholesterol, and we know about the pattern they're in. A is a good pattern, B is a bad pattern. And we look at the very low density lipoproteins too. We know they can help clog arteries as well. And so when we come up with that and we break it all down, and we focus on that, then all of a sudden we start to see studies being published out there saying that when you start breaking this cholesterol down, you look at these bioinflammatory markers, you'll see that they're cutting back on thousands of heart attacks and strokes. And they save money that way, $200 million. It's a lot of money. But our whole goal is to sit there and prevent some of these heart disease and try to help you out. When we sit there and we look at the cholesterol the old way, when we did those calculated values right here, there's studies out there that say that half the heart attacks and strokes happen to people with so-called normal cholesterol. I don't go back and look at the cholesterol the way I used to. Everything I do now is about looking at the biomarkers and breaking that cholesterol down. Because I can flip a quarter right now with the old profile and say, oh, this is when you're going to have a heart attack and when you're not. So that's why it's so important to break everything down and really analyze that. We know that when we look at a blood vessel in here, we know this right here is a young, healthy blood vessel. The wall's very thin. As you get older, you see that starting to clog up there. And we all know that we start here and we end up here. Down here, we end up down here. And we look at these biomarkers right here and they're elevated. We know that you're having a heart attack. That's too late. We don't want to wait for that to happen. So now we start to look at other inflammatory biomarkers. The myeloperoxidase is a good example. And we start measuring those. And that way, I know that we cannot stop this process, but if we can slow it down. If I can make sure that you're 100 before you have your first heart attack or stroke, then we've done a good job. If you're having it at 55 years old, that's not good enough. So we look at all this right here, we try to analyze it, try to prevent this as much as we can. Now the Mdvip program, we know that it costs money to run these tests. I can tell you, the insurance you have now it may be very good, but it pays for things when you're broken. It makes no sense to run your car into a tree and then put your seatbelt on. It makes no sense to spend all your money buying the very best insurance out there and saying, in case I get broken, I'll have good insurance. What makes sense is preventing that or picking up on things as early as you can. And that's why there's a fee of $1,600 or $1,650 for Mdvip program. Now that $1,650, that goes to pay for all that testing we talked about. You get hearing, vision, vascular testing, all those labs through the Cleveland Heart Lab, all that gets included. Your physical, your wellness exam, all that's included through that program. A lot of people, they'll have a flex plan. Those are becoming more popular, or a health savings account. If you use the flex plan or the health savings account, then that right there, you can use it to cover the program. Other people don't have that. But when you join the Mdvip program, and I'm watching over everything, we cut down hospitalizations by as much as 80%. ER rates are down by 15%. I want you calling me, even if it's on a weekend. You always talk to me. I give you my cell phone number, so if something happens on a night or a weekend, call me up. If it's during the day, you either get me or my Mdvip nurse taking care of me. When you come in for your appointment, my shortest appointment is a half hour. So the Mdvip program stands for Value and Prevention. And we all hear about insurance, and insurance is okay, and it pays for things once you're broken. But I'm out there trying to prevent things from happening to begin with. As I said earlier, it makes no sense to run your car into a tree and put your seatbelt on. Mdvip program, they give us a vehicle that's just as important, if not more important, than insurance. And that vehicle, they put everything together. This is a company that's got 225,000 patients across the United States. And we have connections to the Cleveland Heart Lab. We have connections to the Johns Hopkins Center. They have this medical centers of excellence. If something happens to you that I can't get done around here, they give me a conduit that I can get you up to Johns Hopkins or the Cleveland Heart Lab or some other place to get the consultants that we need. So we have the medical centers of excellence. We have this entire wellness plan. We have the personalized health care that allows me to sit down with you and figure out exactly what we need to do to kind of keep you as healthy as we can for as long as we can. I hope that you consider it. If you have any other questions, please visit our website or contact me, and we'll sit down and we'll talk some more.